Welcome to Newslaundry Interviews. Today I have a very special guest with me, Shrayana Bhattacharya. She's an economist and an author, and this is her first book, which she completed after 15 years.
That's true.
It's called Desperately Seeking Shah Rukh Khan, where Shah Rukh Khan is a very interesting device, a research device, like you said, through which we get to know these fascinating women, their lives, their journeys, their desires, their ambitions, and a lot more about them. Over the past 15 years that you've been, interviewing people using him as a device. We'll talk about the fans later, but who are the haters? Are there actual, genuine Shah Rukh Khan haters? What are they like? Can you fit them into a particular category?
Post 2013, I hear murmurs sometimes from, people in the workplace about his religion, but it doesn't really become a very big issue. It's only in, I think, the past 3 or 4 years, and I mentioned this in the book, especially with the CA and the NRC, I hear women in the book saying, they start getting angry at Shah Rukh, and I mentioned this as a Muslim woman in the book who says, why is he not standing up with us, with his own community? And so the haters were actually the fans for a very brief period of time, but it took her only 2 minutes of hate because she loves him too much and she eventually goes back. The haters now that I see are actually after the book is done, are largely, it's that online organized industry, as you know. We
don't see that much resonating when in your field trips while talking to people.
Not at all.
His religion, the whole Muslim man married a Hindu woman.
Jihad and
exactly.
all of, I have to say, that phrase never came up. And I've done research. I mean, this is Western UP. Now you hear the phrase, but during the period between 2006 till around 2018, other than a few murmurs towards that latter period, no one ever saw the actor from the prison of religion.
Why you chose Shah Rukh Khan to explore sexuality, gender, economic activity among women, and why was he the central figure through which you wanted to look at these aspects? And what about fandom? Why did you want to focus on that?
He's an icon that allows you to tap into lots of different themes. One is masculinity. We talked about that right in the beginning. But the other is markets, because he became a huge star just when the Indian economy became a star in a way, right? Right after liberalization. And he says in all his interviews, and I cite some of them in the book, that in a way, he leveraged all the tools of economic reform, be it the telecom reform, suddenly there were channels, media boomed, all of that, to essentially become an even bigger star, right? And I think that's a very important part. And I think he marks that move towards market economy, the fact that he was suddenly, advertising everything, right? There were consumer goods then to advertise. So I think it was interesting because his icon also allowed for a very interesting conversation amongst women about how hard it is for them to access markets. And you see this huge difference. And fandom,
I think in his interview also, he's one of the first heroes to really talk about, I'll dance at wedding for money. So this is ambition unbridled, the aspirational Indian who could just achieve whatever they want and make money. It's not a bad thing for coming out of socialist India.
Exactly. And then the other thing is, I have to tell you this.
I would typically imagine that in rural India or small town India, Salman is the bigger, puller. Is it only for men?
It's very gendered. It's deeply gendered. I should say, it's not that everyone is a Shah Rukh fan. And remember, this is the period where I discovered these informal clubs is between 2006 to around 2010, which is the initial part of the research. And then I followed these women in time, which was really, I think, the crescendo of, Shah Rukh at that time as a star. What I would notice is very gendered, and the women would complain, as you see it in the book. They'd say, well, men are like Salman, but we want Shah Rukh, right? Like in real life, constantly. This is a refrain I heard in Western Uttar Pradesh, posh parties in Jorbagh. Like no matter where I went, I kept hearing this idiom, right? About comparing the two of them. And the other thing I realized in rural areas and certainly small towns is that women don't go to the cinema hall unless they're accompanied. If they go on their own, it's not really seen as being particularly kosher. And often when they go with people, they go for films that often maybe men want to see. There'll be one family release perhaps, and usually it's around Diwali or Eid, it's that festival period. And you see in the book how much negotiating these women have to do just to watch a Shah Rukh film. Whereas the men can just go watch any Salman film. So you're right. I mean, he's very much the star of men.
So men need to get married because they're bad at taking care of themselves. They've been, taken care. I mean, there's the mother, there's the whole woman figure in their family, and then it has to move on to the wife, taking care of you and making your house, giving you babies, all that. Women are now, I think, only over the past 10, 15 years, opportunities have opened up. It's an exciting time to work, go out, experience independence. Yeah. Given that, are women still as excited by the prospect of marriage, or do you think it is slowly, very slowly, a career or ambition is something that they'd care more about if there wasn't pressure? So what if there was none of this society?
So one of the things I think, and I mentioned this in the book, and Shah Rukh's an example of that, and is an illustration of that in the book. Once the economy opened up and there was Sarv Shiksha Abhiyan, everybody had some education, suddenly there was more transport connectivity, the interest to explore the world has just boomed. Not only did our economy transform, our desires, our aspirations have completely transformed. And you see that in the book. And Shah Rukh is almost like a metaphor for that, right? He captures that for many of the women in the book. But they want to meet men like him, they want to be where he is, all of that. Now, what's interesting is that even with that, there's a line in the book, this is something someone told me, she lives in UP, and she said to me, when I am married, then I will be free to do whatever I want because my husband will allow it. So I think marriage as a very central idea.
So better than parents?
Yes,
get married to someone who probably the same age will understand you.
And so marriage is such a central organizing principle in women's idea of a personhood.
As economists, you're supposed to be boring. You're supposed to be... No one should be able to read you. It should be extremely hard.
No, Manisha,
everything that you say should go. So were you not taken seriously in your own fraternity? Were like, ye kya book likh di? Everyone's reading it, everyone's enjoying it. How can this be a book on
Manisha, I think it is a failure of my biradri. We made you believe that we should write in this way.
No, I'm joking. But was it, and this is a problem in every profession, right? Even with journalism, it's supposed to be stiff. It's supposed to be, it should be exclusive broking. Otherwise, you're not a journalist. So even with economists, there's a certain expectation.
Someone needs to tell all these TV news anchors.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's what it's
So did you feel that? How was the reception within your own?
I have to say, I knew it was a risk because I was writing. What I did not want to do is there's a way economists and social scientists and academics write, which is that I'm writing about these other people and I'm far away and I'm observing them and I'm never there. I did not want to do that. I mean, I think is a feminist text. To me, it is a feminist text. You have to be present in the book, and I'm very present in the book. And I knew when I was doing that, and the fact that I was making the numbers much more easy for people to access, I knew it was a risk. I knew that there would be people who'd say, but this is not serious. And I don't want to play the seriousness Olympics anyway. One of the political things with this book for me was I really wanted everyone to be able to look at the numbers and absorb them. It was very important for me. It was the only political thing I was aiming to do, honestly, with the book. People say you should never meet your heroes. I think whoever says that had never met Shah Rukh Khan, because if he's here, you should meet him. And I sort of walked away even more invigorated as a fan. But I will say one thing. I mean, I think everyone who's listening to us or will watch us or watch this, fandom is not like blind celebrity worship. I think there's this way film journalism, and even now actually regular journalism, thinks about celebrities. Everybody's sort of besotted with the celebrity. You read the book and you realize, and even for me, I mean, you can really love someone and it's not blind worship, right? I mean, there is a difference. And all the people in the book are just picking and choosing. I think they've all created. There's Mr. Khan, who is the real person, who is also a co-creator of the Shah Rukh myth. But I think all of us are co-creators in it as well. Like, we've created this myth. And so it was really lovely to meet a co-owner of the myth, and he is as wonderful. I keep saying he should be Prime Minister.
Mufat khoro, muft mein itna hi milega. To watch the full unedited interview, you have to subscribe to News Laundry and pay to keep news free. Because when the public pays, the public is served. We depend on you and not on advertisers. So go to www.newslaundry.com/subscription and subscribe and get all our unedited interviews, our special video shows, comics, and everything that's behind the paywall. Remember, to subscribe to News Laundry, you pay just about 10 rupees a day. That's less than, a cigarette, and smoking is injurious to health. So subscribe and watch the full interview.